What is going on YouTube? Chino here and welcome back to the channel. Now I haven't posted in the last few days, but I have been playing a lot of Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. I'm playing the game on extreme difficulty and I've been having an absolute blast. I've been playing around with different builds and I know for a while I've been promising to bring out a build video, but I didn't just want to bring something out that was a clone of what everybody else was doing. A lot of builds based around trying to get the highest damage per shot, and there are a lot of builds based around trying to get a really good photon sword build. And who can blame you really? Anyone who's watched the series and saw Kirito and Gungale running around with the sword, I thought it was pretty cool. But I'm trying to bring something different, something fresh to the community, something that can be fun, and I think I've done that with this build. And the reason why I call it the Gadgeteer Build is quite simply, it's an engineer build and it's got a focus around gadgets. And gadgets are a really good part of the game that I think are underrated, and not a lot of people really know how to utilize them to the best of their ability. So I'm going to show you guys how I use this and how these have been really helpful through farming extreme difficulty. And the Gadgeteer also looks at building up a lot of stun builder and works particularly well when you've got a demolisher or someone with a launcher and some of those launcher capabilities on your team as well. It just creates that AoE sort of environment for your enemy, and on those boss fights it just keeps everything focused in that same area. I'm actually going to show you guys how that stun build up works, and especially in the boss fights, when you can get that stun build up to the point where the boss will fall to its knees or fall down in a really vulnerable position, you can really pull off some massive numbers in a short period of time. So I'm going to show you guys how that works as well. Now if you look through my stats, you'll see that I've really focused primarily on dexterity, and dexterity brings a lot of things to the game. First and foremost, dexterity gives you damage to critical attacks and damage to weak spots in your enemies. These two stats are really important for the Gadgeteer / engineer build, because while you're not using those really unique skills as an engineer, you can still pull off some great gun damage as well. And the other thing that dexterity does is, and it's obviously very important to the Gadgeteer build, it gives you gadget power. Now I've combined that dexterity stat with luck, and where dexterity will give me critical damage, luck will give me critical chance. Luck will also help me find rarer items and give me a little bit of defense, yes, but that's not the primary reason why I've got luck in this build. If you have a good dexterity stat and a decent luck stat, you will be pulling off good numbers from your weapon damage itself, and that's important. Some of the other stats I've focused on is intellect. The reason why I've got a very specific 109 intellect is so that I can get that Gadgeteer build right up to its full engineer style and get Toxic Gas Blast number 3, which has a required 109 intellect. And what intellect will actually give me is status effect damage, and that really helps with those ticking numbers that you'll see, especially on those boss fights. And intellect also helps with ailment attacks as well. So any status ailment attacks, you know, you could talk about strength down, armor down, anything that's got a blaze build up, anything that's got a stun build up. These things are also affected by your intellect. And these are things that you actually use through your gadgets and through your engineer skills as well. So intellect was a really important stat. And all the other stats you see here, like strength and vitality, don't really serve a massive purpose in the build. Strength is simply there so that I have enough to dual wield rank 7 weapons that I have, and vitality is obviously there so I can have some HP and defense in order to survive a little bit longer in game. Let's take a closer look at the skills I have equipped. The most important one is Armor Break Shot 3, especially on those boss fights. And when you do hit this negative status effect on your boss, you'll see a lot higher numbers come from your damaging abilities and weapon damage as well. And Electrodynamic Stunner 2, this is really important for your stun build-up. The typical stun build-up number is quite low unless you go to at least number 2, and this will also play a part with your gadgets giving stun build-up as well. This takes down your enemies pretty quickly, especially the lower ranked ones, all the trash mobs in the dungeons and things like that, and you'll see them fall pretty quick. Even in PvP, this really helps take the enemies to a vulnerable position where you can do a lot of extra damage. Blaze Blast 3 and Toxic Gas Blast 3 for your blaze build up and damage over time effects, which is primarily what an engineer does. I'm currently using a launcher because I've got a launcher with some good XP boost, but you can use pretty much anything in your second slot, but I like to use Enhanced Gadget 1 or 2 if you can get your hands on it, and it doesn't really matter about many of the other things. I've just given myself some extra buffs there, so this second weapon slot's not particularly too important. And what Enhanced Gadget really does is it enhances your gadget, so you'll get a better stun build up and a lot more damage coming from your gadgets. And let's have a look at those gadgets. So in the top you see my Camouflage. The Camouflage is really important because especially in dungeon fights you can go up to the bosses, position yourself really well, throw in the stun trap or throw in a proximity mine before they really aggro you and notice that you're there. Electromag stun trap, really important for getting stun build up, and you can create a really great combination between stun trap and proximity mine. And I find the sticker grenades especially helpful against boss fights because they will just obviously stick to those big bodies and do a lot of damage. Now I'm going to show you guys my equipment really quickly and then we're going to move to some gameplay. The stuff that I have equipped right now is essentially stuff that I'm using for some quick XP, world farming. I'm showing some extra XP and metal gain, and moving over to this with gadget attack, which is essentially the most important thing, and that movement speed is quite helpful as well. I find that pretty cool using the Gadgeteer type build. And as you can see, it's a very, very basic launcher that I'm using, but it does have extra XP. And I'll probably steal that stat and move it over to a better weapon later. And I'm just using some rank 6 and rank 7 weapons, sort of mixing around at the moment. And I'm just eventually going to come across a really good rank 7 weapon, and I'm just going to get as many stats on it as I can and advance it as far as it'll go. Now to show you guys some key moments in PvE boss fights where a Gadgeteer really becomes helpful. And at this stage of this boss fight, I've already applied all negative status effects, including Armor Break 3, and I'm going to go in there and throw in Electromag Stun and Proximity Mine. And you can see the boss is down in a really vulnerable position, and this is where everyone can just hammer the weak points and get the win really quickly. This gives you an example of what it's like in a boss fight where you've really got to keep on your toes and keep moving to avoid damage. And this is the sort of boss fight where having a destroyer or a launcher based player on your team is really useful. And you can see that the boss is really held into position there, and I can just keep firing away at those negative status effects. And you can just see those numbers ticking away on the boss as sometimes I have to move to avoid mines. And I'm constantly applying that armor break and the toxic gas blast and blaze build up. The goal isn't just to help my numbers, it's to help everyone else who's focusing on the boss, help their numbers. And especially with that armor break, their numbers really show through a lot higher when you have the armor break on the boss, so you've just got to keep applying it and applying it. And you can see how quickly I burn through that last HP bar, and everyone else does as well, obviously. And when shooting your weapon, weak points are particularly important, obviously, when you've got such a high dexterity, because that's where all your damage is going to be coming from with your weapon damage. This is the Angry Berserker, and the Angry Berserker actually has a low tolerance to stun. And as you can see, I shot just once the electromagnetic stun, and I've already got him on the floor. I'm just applying some crazy damage really, really quickly. He's a level 120, so nothing to be coughed at, but there you go. I've already pretty much taken half his health off in that one little bit. And in this fight, on top of the AIs that we got there, I'm also carrying through a level 41 and his Arphasis unit as well. And it doesn't even matter, it really doesn't. With the sort of damage that we're putting out with these damage over time effects, you're able to pretty much carry anyone through on these big boss fights. This guy's hard to hit when he's enraged. But yeah, we were able to get him down this one last time and just finish him off as easy as that. This is Extreme Difficulty Fugal, and I'm just taking out some trash mobs here, and I just use Electromag Shot, and as I'm approaching these guys, I use Enhanced Gadget, get really close, and then I throw a Proximity Mine underneath them here, and that's the end of them. And another example here, this time I'm using Enhanced Gadget first. Throw in Electromag Stun Trap, and Proximity Mine, and then finish them off really quickly. And same combination here, you'll see me pick a couple of these guys off and then run in and do exactly the same thing. So you've got Enhanced Gadget applying right now, Electromag Stun Trap just down here, and that's really good against these guys with the shields. There goes the mine, and then I finish him off with a grenade. So there you have it guys, this has been a Gadgeteer build on Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. All love is appreciated. Till next time, take it easy.